So now I'm going to show you how to use my new basket mould. If you get the German magazine Einzus Wolf, you will find this this project in there, written out in full, in German of course, at some point in the spring of 2020, because this is the second day of 2020 when I'm filming this, which is great fun. I never thought I'd make it to the roaring 20s, but here we are. So I've got some of my seconds because I don't use my perfects, but the perfects of these, as they come in the kit, look a little bit stronger than this one. I've rejected this one, so it's the one I'm going to use. So first of all, you need some string, and if you get the kit, the string comes in the kit for 3 baskets. But if you are making one yourself, which you'll see how to do in the magazine, you will obviously need the moulding material to make this as well. If you've got the kit, you will start off with a string that's about 2 millimeters. You can use other string. In fact, I've also got some here that's green, which I quite fancy having a go at. It's a little bit looser and a bit more bitty, but the gluing process should deal with that problem. And this one, if you're in America, you can buy from a company called Beadsmith, and it's a hemp, and it's 2 millimeters, and that's the best size. But you can find all sorts of different strings, but the 2 millimeter is the best for this one, because if you can do it smaller, but it comes out very, it's a lot of work, a lot more work to do it with a finer one. The hat mould has a 1 millimeter in it, but this is the best for this one and for the hanging basket mould. So you'll also get in your kit some of this glue. If you're doing it at home, making a mould at home, you'll have to get yourself one of these little glue bottles. Not difficult to get hold of these days, because every vaping shop sells the vaping material. So if you've got a vapor in the family, just get them to keep their bottles when they're finished, wash them out well, and they're very good dispensers for glue. And the glue that you need will be a fast tack, thick tacky glue. So it's got to be fast grab and fast drying. So, right, the first thing that you need to do, nearly forgot. If you're going to put the lining in your basket, I've cut one out here, you put that on first, glue down the centre, and pin round the edges. I'm not doing that at the moment because I just want to go straight in and do a basket, because if your basket's filled with something, which mine are usually filled with flowers, you don't really need a liner on it. So I just pop a little bit of glue in the centre, and this will come right away. The mould material and the glue resist each other, so there's no problem with that. Oh, that hasn't gone in. You may need a little something to push that into the centre. It's just really to tuck it away so you don't have a big bulky lump in the middle of your basket, in the middle of the bottom of your basket. You want it to stand flat on your surface. Incidentally, while I remember, the way I get my baskets to stand up nicely, I don't think I've drilled this one very well. It may be that this particular string is a little thicker than the one I normally use. So anyway, that's in the centre. Yeah, what I was going to say is that the way I get my baskets finally to stand up when I'm filling them is I put a piece of either a marble or a piece of glass that you can get from these decorating shops into the bottom, and that gives it the weight it needs. So the first thing I'm going to do is stick a little pin in the top. Don't put it too far in because there is a little indentation, not one as big as this one, but a little indentation in your mould, and you don't want to be stabbing your own fingers. Right, so I work clockwise because I'm right-handed and I want to be able to pull it towards me and round and glue towards me and round. It's more difficult to glue in the opposite direction. It just feels awkward. So you can keep your glue bottle in this hand and you can carry on and work, keeping the glue bottle, if it's small enough, in your hand as you work. So the first thing to do now is to get a reasonable amount of glue right round that first bit and start to wind. As you start this first wind, you want to make sure that you've got the mould starting in the middle. This mould, yeah, this one's fine. This one's got a bit of an edge here. So, and when you've done your first wind, it's a very good idea to pin it again. Your kit comes with about a dozen pins in it, so you can pin as often as you like. And if you want to, you can stop at that point, go away and have a cup of tea, because that's the most difficult bit. From there on, you're motoring. And it's just finding that that's sitting right in the middle of that base, and that just makes it end up in a better place later. So then the next thing you do is to do a twist of glue. It doesn't have to be perfect, and don't worry if it gets on your fingers. That's why I'm wearing an overall, so I can just wipe my fingers on my overall if they get a bit too gluey. Just bring that round, glue, and bring it round. Glue as far as you can glue as far as you like. You can do a full sweep or less of a sweep, and you'll see that you've got quite a lot of glue on the surface here, but you can just rub that off with your fingers. It's not a problem, but you do need to make sure that there's plenty of glue in there. And the fact that this mould is made from silicone means that the glue will dry against the mould perfectly well, but it will release it. So I'm bringing this round to the edge. At this point you might find that this moves slightly, and you can just push it back into place. And I want to make a nice flat bottom, so I'm bringing this string right up to the very edge and hanging it over the edge slightly of this base. So I'm now not gluing the mould, I'm gluing the edge of the previous bit. And this is time to put your third pin in, and that wants to go in sideways to hold it to the next one along. So there you go, that's the bottom, the base done, and it's hanging over slightly, hanging over the edge slightly of the base. I'll just take this pin out because it's one that's an old one that's got a bit of glue on, so it's not sticking through very well. So I don't need that one anyway. I'll put an extra one in anyway, just to hold it nice and firm. This string is not as forgiving as the other one. The one that comes in the pack is usually this one, although I've started to use this one as well because I'm running low. So if your pin's not very sharp, it's not quite so forgiving. Right, I don't know where I got the original string. I think it was from a sea shanty festival in my old city of Hull. I haven't been able to find exactly the right one since. That's good. So that should be fairly flat. And normally, if I'm making them, I've got more than one mould. So I'll then go on to doing the same process with the next one along, because I like that to stay quite flat as a base. Not everyone is flat. Some baskets have quite a curvy base, but I like that to stay a bit flat. So the next thing that you do, and as I say, I'll let that bit dry first, but you don't need to, is to start gluing around the edge underneath that base bit. So as you can see, it hangs over slightly. And then you go underneath and you're starting off in another direction, how you're going downwards. So it's really very simple. The worst of it is that your fingers get gluey, but I don't really mind that. And of course, I can make larger or smaller baskets using a different mould, which I do have plans to do a smaller size basket to this. And I also have a hanging basket mould at the moment already, and a straw boat mould. But it does seem to me that I'm going to be doing a series of this type of mould because it does work very well. So while I'm doing this, I'll also tell you about my flowers book, because after some toing and froing with the designs, I found myself very excited by the idea of stenciling and coming up with lots and lots of stencil designs for polymer clay flowers. And that's what I've been doing this last year, or nearly 2 years. And my book came out just a couple of months ago, and it's doing very well. And it's a completely new direction, a completely new technique, which has never been tried before. And I'm really enjoying it. Oh yes, the book. Yes, it's called The Dollhouse Flower Shop. Right, so now you need to decide whether you're going to go for the handle early or late in the process. The best way to do it is to take it right to the bottom, right to where the handle holes show. If you've got one of my seconds, because my patrons get my seconds, if you've got one of my seconds of these, you might find that you don't have a handle slot showing, because the first edition of this mould didn't have a handle slot showing, so you can't see where to put the handle, so you have to work that one out for yourself. But the ones that I sell in my kits do have this little handle slot, which you pin just at the beginning of the slot, take the handle right round the slot, and then pin again at the other side. And then you start again and take it round with the glue, obviously, to the other slot. Pin again and take the other handle round. Pop another pin in. Now you're on the last leg, and what you need to do is cut this off at about 2 centimetres or an inch, something like that, just between, so that it doesn't quite reach the next handle. I've done this so quickly that it is moving too much on the mould. Right, so then the next thing that you do is to just twizzle that string so that it opens into however many pieces it is. It's usually 3. I don't know whether you can see that, but that's in three pieces there. And you cut one of those a little bit shorter and one shorter still. So your three pieces are 3 separate lengths. Add your glue to the edge of the mould and twizzle and tuck these little ends in. And the last one, you might need a cocktail stick, or I quite like using these knitting needles, and just press that right down into the edge of the mould. This handle does seem to want to come loose. That's just because it's so, the glue is so fresh. As I say, I should have taken a lot longer about that, but I've rushed it. Also, this mould is way too flexible because we didn't put enough material in the middle of it. But that's the general idea. This flexibility is a problem. That's why this one's a second. So if you're one of my patrons receiving the freebies that I send out to some of my patrons, it might be a good idea to fill. You might get this actual one. Might be a good idea to fill this with minute mould if you've got some, just to strengthen it a bit, because it's too flexible. I can feel that. So that needs to dry, and I'll just pop over and get a finished one. Oh, there's one that's finished but doesn't have handles. I did that for a flower basket without handles. So here's a flower basket with the lining in, and the first few parcels I sent out, the first few kits I sent out only have that bit and no bottom cut for you, designed for you. All you have to do, if you've got one of those early generation ones, is cut a very small circle and pop it in. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit big, too big for the base. It just covers the edges of the round bit. So when you take your basket off the mould, which you can do simply by pressing the mould, that'll loosen it and it just comes off. You then pull these pins out with a pair of small pliers, and then release it. And here is a basket that I've put a little marble. It was like a marble shard in the bottom to make it stand up with some weight in the bottom. And then I put lots and lots of this PVA glue and started to add flowers. This one's got peonies in, but a lot of them I put roses and gerbera, and these bits come out of my twiggy things. It's called twiggy things. My twiggy things set of stencils. They're all stenciled, and you will see those either in my book or on YouTube's, some past and some coming up.